This is a mission field, and God is so eager to bless it, to protect you. Rely on Him. The closer you each grow to God, the closer you will grow to each other. Don't wait for your spouse to grow closer to God before you wholeheartedly devote yourself. He'll meet you there. Hey there, Mama. This is True Presence, the podcast where Catholic moms like you and me learn to be embodied souls. St. Catherine of Siena said, "Be who you were meant to be, and you will set the world on fire." In the midst of hurry, worry, and social media, we're doing a 180 and focusing on real presence, communion, connection, natural living, and bringing eternity into our hearts and homes. I'm your host, Kelsey, and I'm so glad you're here. Hey friends, I was so excited to see how many of you have already been signing up for the special Lenten podcast. I've already got an episode up in there for you for preparing. If you're interested in doing this, there's a sign up below. You can get it. It's a special podcast for any moms who are giving up social media for Lent. And the whole idea of this is that you will get the support you need without having to open your internet browser or be in a Facebook group, which would be completely counterproductive. So the goal is to practice the principles of how to be really, truly present with our families. And if you're interested in that podcast, sign up below. Hello, my friends, and happy Valentine's Day. Today, I thought it was fitting to talk about marriage, especially in a world where marriages are falling apart at an unprecedented rate. And children are being raised in households where they have only one parent, or really complicated families and a lot of instability. And we're seeing the repercussions of this, the trauma that it leads to in their lives, and the breakdown of stability in our society at large as a result of the breakdown of the family. So this right here is an essential mission. Your marriage is so important, not just for your family, but for the repercussions, the ripple effects through your greater family, through your community at large. And it's worth fighting for. It's worth protecting. So I wanted to share some of the best advice I've come across about marriage over the years. That first, let's talk about love. We often think of love as a feeling, but love is not just a feeling. It's also a verb. And the feeling can come from the action. So if you're not feeling love for your husband, sometimes that means you need to take the action of loving, and the feeling will flow there. It's a choice. Second, once you're married in a sacramental marriage, you need to think of that marriage as your path to sainthood. It is a vocation. This is where He's going to pour the grace into your life. Now, that can look so different for different couples, especially when you have things like, chronic illness or abuse and situations like that. It's not necessarily going to look the way you expect it to. If you're, in an abusive relationship and you need to get away, sometimes that is what the expression of love is to hold a boundary and say, I won't let you sin against me. If there's chronic illness, sometimes it looks like doing more than your fair share. But the point is that when you study your marriage, you're going to see where God is working, where He is sanctifying you. And that right there is your shortcut to heaven. So He's calling us not to resist our cross, but to embrace it. So third bit of advice for marriage, affirmation is much more powerful than criticism in helping your spouse to grow. I don't know anybody who doesn't struggle with a deep sense of unworthiness. But one of the most powerful things we can do is focus on the log in our own eye instead of the speck in our brothers. And this is so true of our spouses too. When you are noticing and affirming the things that they are doing well, those are going to grow so much. If you think that your husband has a quality worthy of admiration, tell him. The other side of this criticism and nagging actually is detrimental to your marriage and counterproductive. I don't know husbands who generally become more responsible and more mature through criticism and nagging from their wives. In fact, it usually puts the wife into the role of mother to them and means that the wife is carrying that responsibility for whatever it is. Let's say it's a bad habit. The wife is the one who reminds their husband not to do the bad habit. Then they are making themselves responsible for his success and failure at it. instead of having him be responsible and taking ownership for it. If you want your husband to mature, leave his growth to him. Inspire him to growth. Don't demean him. Share your vision, your longings, your imaginings, your hopes, and invite him into those. All right, next. This one is something that takes a lot of wives a long time to learn, especially after they have kids. There are so many books written that are just full of how resentful wives feel about their husbands not doing their fair share in childcare, their fair share in housework. And what most of this boils down to is that it means that the wife doesn't have time for the things she wants to do. She's overwhelmed. So what can you do? In this case, it's so important for a wife to take responsibility for her own well-being. Don't let resentment grow from unmet expectations. You have to communicate to your husband what you need. And if there's something you need, make a plan to meet that need. You are equal in the marriage in terms of importance. You are a whole person, just like your spouse. If your spouse wouldn't ask your permission or your help to do something to take care of themselves, then you shouldn't either. If there's something you need, get it. If you need a break, arrange that. You have equal rights to your shared resources. If your husband doesn't want to help with childcare so that you can take time off, hire a babysitter. But take that time. And if your husband doesn't like it, then they can step up to do the childcare. But as soon as you are the one who is taking care of yourself, then you can stop resenting your husband, and it's going to be so much better for your marriage. Your husband's going to notice too. Imagine if you can show up at the end of the day when he comes home from work and wants to spend time with you, and you still have some energy and you're in a place of mental health. He's going to benefit too from you taking care of yourself. Last thing, disagreements are normal, but you need rules of the game to have fair and respectful disagreements. It's important to recognize when you're getting angry, when you're getting too angry, to have a respectful discussion and to pause it. Take a break. I'm not talking about the silent treatment. Silent treatment is a form of emotional abuse, but take a break, set a date and a time where you're going to finish that conversation and be apart for just a little bit to cool down. First and foremost, you are in this together. Disagreements are about working toward growth together. You're a team and you each have valid things to bring to the table. And when you recognize this, when you can work together and listen to each other's perspective, it enriches your marriage. There's no competition between you because the marriage is a wholeness when you're in it together. So argue from a place of love, argue from a place of caring about the other's well-being and about making things work. Guys, this is so important for today's world. You can look around, you can look at your children's generation and see just how broken families are everywhere. This is a mission field, and God is so eager to bless it, to protect you. Rely on Him. The closer you each grow to God, the closer you will grow to each other. Don't wait for your spouse to grow closer to God before you wholeheartedly devote yourself. He'll meet you there. Have a happy Valentine's Day. See you next week. All right, my friends, if you've been liking this podcast and you haven't hit that follow button, go ahead and do that. Then you'll see every single episode the day that it comes out, just showing up in your podcast app. And if you really like this podcast, would you do me a favor and leave me a review? And the more information you tell me about the things you like, the better I am able to make episodes like that and get you the guests that are helpful to you. I am so grateful to anyone who's already left a review. Thank you for that. So please go ahead, write a review, hit the follow button, share this with a friend. Let's see if we can find more moms who want to listen and get this out there to them so they can get benefits just like you.